One of the biggest stories currently ongoing in the Australian aviation industry doesn't necessarily relate to Qantas, but actually Qatar Airways and their desire to expand in the country. Now, outgoing Qantas CEO Alan Joyce has backed a decision to reject the appeal by Qatar Airways to grow their Australian operations. Thanks to Alan Joyce sitting in front of the Senate for the Cost of Living Committee, developments have emerged, including his assurance that flying, yes, should be affordable. Qatar Airways had previously wanted to expand its flights to Australia, equating to 21 services per week extra in cities along the east coast of Australia. This includes your Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne. It could have added up to $800 million in tourism revenue if to be granted. However, it was denied the opportunity to do so. Public reaction following the rejection pointed at the overprotection of the Australian flag carrier Qantas, and how allowing Qatar Airways to expand in the country could have aided prices and provided a more competitive landscape for travellers. Alan Joyce says the rejection, though, was in the best interests of Australia, and protecting the country is always going to be of the utmost importance. The outgoing CEO further said that if Qatar Airways wanted additional capacity, they could send larger aircraft to cities across the country, which in turn would add seats. Interestingly though, the CEO also believes that adding more Qatar Airways flights wouldn't necessarily impact airfares in a positive or negative manner, contrary to, say, what the public reaction may have been. He believes that airfares will naturally come down at some point anyway, but doing so in the right manner is of paramount importance. Another consideration is the Qatar Airways expansion into Australia would have offered travellers more options for destinations. Given Qatar Airways' massive fleet and also fantastic global network, it was always going to potentially lean into more options through their Doha hub for transit purposes. Alan Joyce, though, says that capacity was always going to return once the pandemic concluded, with the possibility of being there, whether it be with Qantas or other airlines, to travel to all corners of the globe, with Cathay Pacific, Singapore and many more returning to Australian cities. And those options would have been there whether Qatar Airways is present or not. Do you believe this is harsh, or do you believe he has a point? Let me know down below in the comments. Qatar Airways currently offers multiple daily flights into major ports around Australia and is viewed by many as a fantastic airline, with its ideal Doha-based hub geographically positioned in a nature to allow those in the Oceania region to access locations in Europe, Africa and more with ease. Per Cerium for July 2023, Qatar Airways offered 124 flights between Doha and Melbourne, which was a 100% increase year on year. They have multiple daily flights connecting the two cities. Meanwhile, there are 62 for Doha and Brisbane, 62 for Doha and Perth, and 61 for Doha and Sydney. It also operates triangular routes onwards to New Zealand through Australian ports. Criticism, though, has equally been present for a long time over Qantas's lacklustre international network, which has struggled to meet the demands outlined by Australians and those wanting to come into the country. The most recent order announcement for additional Boeing 787s and A350s will certainly aid future expansion plans. However, with the understanding that deliveries will still continue well into the 2030s for these aircraft, this is hardly going to be an immediate fix to the problem. Alan Joyce noted finally that competition is more than welcomed in the Australian aviation sector, but it must be fair on all grounds and be in the best interest of protecting Australia, and no doubt Qantas as the national airline. And it's been deemed that Qatar Airways' views to expansion in the country isn't going to be fair. What do you make of all of this? Which side do you stand on? Do you believe there are valid points from each party? Let me know down below in the comments. Thanks a lot for your support, and I'll see you next time.